So Brianne and Brandy Blumenthal. So many of you know them. So hey, today we are working on a series, Activate Your Faith. Now, the question that we want to really deal with is part of our mission statement of our church. We're going to talk about that today, about launching passionate students. That's you. So talking about activate your faith is not passive. It's assertive. Just like, how many of you have been watching the Olympics? Anybody? Seen any of that? Going, someday I'm going to be there? Anybody thinking that? That's good. Inspiring you to, no, it's a lot of work you got to do to get to that place. But you've all been spectators. Faith is not a spectator sport. Faith is for participants. A lot of people can watch, but God has launched us to live it out. So we're going to talk about that part of our mission statement. Our church, Pantano, right here, we desire to launch passionate people. For you, launch passionate students. You're them. We want to launch you to do some things that are incredible, things you never thought you could do. Kind of like that slalom skier yesterday. Do you see her? She's a snowboarder, was using somebody else's equipment and got the gold. It's like, how did you do that? She goes, I don't know, I did that. It's like she was stunned. Okay? That's the kind of thing that happens when you get launched to do something incredible. So I want to ask you a couple questions about launching, because this whole idea of launching, we think, okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, let's compare it to a rocket. Some of you remember the space shuttle. We used it till 2011. From 81 to 2011, we're sending satellites and people and building the space station, all that stuff with the shuttle. Well, the shuttle actually weighs empty without cargo and people in it, 165,000 pounds. It's kind of heavy. It takes over 20 times its weight in fuel to launch it. So the shuttle weighs that. It can carry 65,000 pounds of cargo for 230,000 pounds, the shuttle. The rest of the weight, the entire weight of the rocket sitting on the pad, fully loaded with fuel, 4.4 million pounds. I don't know about you, but it's a little heavier than I am. 4.4 million pounds. All that to launch 230,000 pounds into space. Why does it take so much power? Why does it take so much power to get something into space? Who can tell me? Why? Any future engineers that are going to figure out the problem and how to get to Saturn or something like that? Gravity. Simple. It's what keeps you and I sitting on this planet and not floating into space ourselves. That gravity. I want to tell you and encourage you with this. There is gravity that holds you right where you're at. That if you don't tie into this concept of getting launched, you will be stuck. Our church doesn't want to see anybody stuck. Our church wants to see people launched to do incredible things. We're going to talk about that, but I want you to feel this a little bit. I want you to get the picture of this. So we're going to watch just a minute of a launch of the shuttle so you can kind of feel what it's like to have that much power and to see it in action.
12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond. Very happy. Y'all do it with
in less than 30 seconds, these people go from zero to breaking the sound barrier and on up into space. all that power, all that energy is needed to break away. So we're going to talk about how that looks for you and I, because as we think about launching passionate students, what does that look like? How does that happen? So once you grab your Bible, we're going to open up Matthew 28. Open up your phones, open up whatever you got. If you need a Bible, raise your hand. Bibles are coming. Matthew chapter 28. So I'm going to set the tone here. Jesus is about to have his goodbye party, right? That's the context of this scripture. It's the last thing he says to his followers. He is on his way out. These are the last two sentences that we have recorded that he uttered. Okay, and so he says these things as he's leaving. He's walking out the door. You know, it's just the mic drop moment. He's dropping it and gone. And all the people are there stuck listening to this. And here's what he says. Matthew, start 28, verse 19. Second word says, go. He simply says, go. You look at that and think about it. Jesus just tells them all. He looks at them all and he just says, go. So when we're done here, the buses are lined up. They're coming in right now. You guys are going to go. Some of you are going to India. Some of you are going to Africa. Some of you are going to go to Mexico. It's all lined out. Your parents already know you're going to be gone for the next 3 months, all right? So it says, go. You're not really leaving. All right, just want you to know that. Therefore, go. And here's what he says. This is what Jesus is telling his friends. He's launching them to go do. He says, go make disciples. He didn't say, go find a few friends, teach them. And to make a disciple means you have to have a follower. A disciple is a student. So think about your favorite teachers. You got a favorite teacher at school? Sorry, I said that word on the Sunday school. Your favorite teacher? Do you have a teacher that's not your favorite? A teacher you never want to have again? Okay. That teacher, let's just say every student's out on the field, right? Lunchtime, you're out, wherever the quad, whatever you guys call it now, or you're hanging out. And all the teachers have to go out and find students who will follow them. Some of your teachers go, okay, if I have to pick one, I'm going to pick you. Other than I'm not picking you ever. I don't care if you're the last teacher in the school, right? Jesus is telling these guys to go find students. Where? All nations. In other words, he is giving them a playground that's the entire world. He didn't say stay here. He didn't say go home where it's comfortable. He said go. This is Jesus' last things he is saying. These guys are on the launch pad and he is saying to them, go everywhere and find people who will be your student and do this with them. Go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them. When's the last time you saw somebody baptized who was somebody had him in a headlock and took him into the water? Right? To baptize someone, they have to choose to go in, right? You don't just take them and throw them off the edge, take them over to the ocean, get on the edge of the pier, throw them off. You're baptized. No, they have got to want to be baptized. So you disciple them, you teach them about Jesus to the point of them wanting to make a decision to follow Jesus. And then you have to teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Jesus looks at these guys and says, and then I want you to teach them everything that I've commanded you. Go. And he walks out. That's the last thing he says. Now that in itself, it's kind of like if I just came in and said that to you, right now I'm saying it to you, go get on the bus. If that's all I told you and said, go get on the bus, and you go right to the airport with nothing, no suitcases, no nothing. Somebody hands you a passport and says, go, here you go. Where am I going? I don't know, wherever it says. There's your ticket. Go, and you land in India. What am I supposed to do now? Well, Roger said, go do it right here. It's 2 sentences. Do all this. Go. That's scary. It's kind of like giving you being an astronaut. Here you go. Here's what you need to live in space. Here's this suit I'm giving you, complete with a helmet, really fancy. I'll even put a sticker on it for you. Go. Now go to the moon. Well, how am I going to get there? Go. If that's all Jesus did, he put people on a launch pad, think of yourself as a rocket. You were born to go. That's how you were created. You were created to go. But if you're never fueled, if you're never fueled, you will never go anywhere. When is the last time that we built a rocket just to sit on the launch pad for everybody to come by and look at? Ooh, pretty shiny. Spend $1 billion building a rocket and never fueling it, and it never goes anywhere. It just sits on the launch pad. It's ridiculous. And that's how I want you to think about your life if you never go. The energy that it takes for you to be born, to grow, and to be is for a purpose. It's not to sit and be a spectator. It's for you to put your life and your faith into action and to go. But Jesus didn't just give them these 2 sentences. He didn't just say, go, change the world, make it all different. He spent 3 years of his life. In fact, what he did is he handpicked people. As he was walking through their lives, he looked at them and said, hey, follow me. Hey, you, follow me. Come follow me. I'm going to change your world. And they went, me? And he took some of the most odd group of people. He didn't take the most famous. He took some of the most infamous. The people that everybody knew and no one liked. Well, I'll take you. People that no one knew, he took them. People that were just regular, ordinary, obscure, I'll take you. It wasn't about the name they had made for themselves or the reputation. He just said, I want you, I want you, I want you to follow me. And then he spent 3 years of his life fueling their tanks. How did Jesus fuel up these men? What did he do in their presence? He didn't have this yet. He only had half of it, well, 2/3 of it, the Old Testament, which is really hard if you're trying to follow it because it's a bunch of laws, a bunch of rules. And the men of that day made it even harder because they added rules and laws to it. And Jesus walked with them and he started giving this thing called freedom. He started showing them pictures of who God is. And then he walked in their presence and says, hey, watch this. He took a lunch bag and he fed 5,000 people. He did that once. 5,000 men. That doesn't count the women and children. 10, 15,000 people. He fed with a lunch bag. It's like going to your school and feeding them for the next 2 weeks on whatever you take in the door that day. It's like, what? These guys are looking, how did that happen? And they're collecting all this extra food going, where did all this come from? That fuels their tank because they start to see Jesus. They start to see God in a whole different way. Their worldview was, if you have a lunch, that's all you have is a lunch. And Jesus says, no. If you have me, you got a banquet. And they started fueling their tank. They started scratching their head. Who is this guy? Because at first they were following him as a teacher and they didn't know what he was going to teach. They just started following him. I'm not sure who you are, but beats fishing. I'll go. And then he starts doing this. He does crazy things. These lepers come up to him, right? What's he do? Go away. Go, you're healed. Go show yourself to the priest. And they're like, they walk away. They're all well. And the guys are going, how did you do that? They're in a storm. These fishermen are in a boat watching one of the worst storms they've ever been. They would never be on the water. It was so bad. The waves are, and they're going to sink. They're looking at, they know what it's like to be on the lake with this high of winds and this big of waves. They're about to cry. They finally wake up Jesus, who's just sleeping in the boat. And Jesus wakes up and goes, oh, where is your faith? Be calm. All of a sudden the winds are gone, the sea gets calm. And they're like, who are you? Fuels their tank. And they begin to experience God like they've never experienced God. And he does it over and over, and he sits with them and he teaches them and he shares with them a worldview that is different than anything they've heard. And he continues to fuel their tank. And then he has this going away party and he says, therefore, based on everything the last 3 years that we have been together doing, that I have taught you, that I have shown you, that I've revealed to you, go. Go. That launching takes fuel. It takes energy. It takes people investing in you. I mean, think about your own life. All right? Start to break this down a little bit, your own life. What do you need? And what is your gravity that is holding you and causing you to be stuck and held in place? Because your life will never break the gravitational pull of the things that hold you. Friends, your education, too much education, not enough education, not the right kind of education. All those things. Family situations, tragedies, things that happen in your life that just hurt. All of those things become gravity that will hold you if you let it. And all those things take power to be able to remove yourself from. Power that you and I don't have on our own. Power that needs to be fueled so that we can blow by it. I had a friend in my youth ministry. His name was Mark Reiswig. He in high school, he decided and knew, I think it was at high school camp, he really came to the point, he was going to be a missionary, that God is really calling him to go to places in the world that did not know about Jesus, places that had never heard the name Jesus spoken. He was convinced. So he graduated from high school and he says, okay, I'm ready to go. And we're like, yeah, whoa, hold on. You are a rocket that is sitting on the launch pad. Problem is, you're only a third full. What happens if a rocket only has a third amount of fuel as it needs and it blasts off? What's going to happen? It's going to go, almost, and come crashing. The gravity is going to pull it right back down. You start stepping out and stuff without enough faith, without enough experience with who God is, and it's just going to pull you. The world, your friends, everything's going to pull you right back down. So we said, wait, we got to have a plan. You need something. You're going to go to another part of the world who does not think American. Most of us, anyways, raised here, we think American. And people are like, what's that? We have a worldview. We look at the world a certain way. When you start thinking, man, I deserve one of those. I should have one. And we as Americans start thinking, well, everybody has one, right? No, they don't. In fact, 90% of the world, they don't get 3 meals a day. They don't have this thing called a pantry where you can go and get whatever food you want. They don't have that. And we're like, what? You mean you can't just grab a soda? You can't just grab this? You can't bag of chips? No. They don't even have access to that. But our worldview is, it's all this stuff. We should all have it. So we told Mark, I said, Mark, you got to have a plan. You got to get some more fuel. Because what happens if a rocket has enough fuel to get out of the gravity of Earth? Then what? Where's it going to go? Where's the destination? Let's say you want to go to the moon. You get enough fuel to get to the moon. Then what? Is the goal to get to the moon? No, the goal is to get back from getting to the moon. If you only want to go to the moon, it takes less energy. You don't have to plan for the return trip. But you got to know all of those things and plan for that. You got to understand culture. You got to understand languages. Most of the world doesn't speak English, especially when you're going to places that have never heard the name of Jesus. So we told Mark, said, Mark, you got to have a plan. You got to have an education. You've got to finish your education because you got to learn about cultures. You got to learn what it's going to take. You got to get some more experience in life so that you can go and do well. Because you can't go and make disciples if you run out of gas halfway there. It's not going to happen. And so we came up with this plan. Mark went on. He went and got his education. Went on, was on the mission field for a while. Now he's back in the United States. He's actually up in Peoria or Glendale, somewhere in that area. And as a pastor on staff at a church. He went. He's going. His life has gone way beyond what he was personally capable of, but he allowed his tank to be fueled up and ready to go. I want to introduce you to somebody who you know really well, Peyton. Have Peyton come up. Because I think you will like, woo, there you go. The band's ready. Band's appreciating. Peyton's been sharing her story this morning. And so tell us a little about yourself, Peyton, all your friends here.
Well, okay, so I've been a volunteer here for about 3 years now in the adult services in the main auditorium. I find it really symbolic because you were saying how they were trained up by Jesus himself for 3 years, and I'm also graduating this year, so 3 years, and I'm being launched.
So tell us where you were 4 to 5 years ago before all this. Let's go backward a little bit and move forward again.
Okay, so 4 or 5 years ago, I was a little 8th grader, and I just came to church like, like most like middle school kids do, but I wasn't really here. I was here, I was sitting in the seats, and I was listening to the messages, but I wasn't really here. And I was going through some things, like I have some family issues, and I was just really struggling emotionally. I was diagnosed with depression. It was just not a fun time.
Yeah, thanks for being transparent about that, Sharon. So 4 or 5 years ago, you were here, warm in a seat, and it was something you did on Sundays. Definitely a spectator at that point. So had the gravity of your life was keeping you right there. You were just kind of spinning around that, kind of stuck. Then what happened? What changed?
So my freshman year, a lady by the name of Jennifer Hudson, she no longer goes here. She moved to Texas, unfortunately. She grabbed me and she was like, hey, you should do media for the adult services. And for those of you who don't know, it's like all of the pictures and lyrics and videos and stuff on the screens. That's what I did. So she grabbed me and she was like, hey, you should do this. And it really just started to transform me. And later on, like a few months after that, I asked to do more. I first asked to do lighting, so I would operate the lights on the weekends. Next, I asked to do video switcher, which is culling all of the camera shots and making sure that those look nice before they go up on the screen and stuff. And I just started to put more time into it and be trained like pretty much everywhere except for 2 positions.
So how old are you when you started doing the video?
I was 15.
So at 15 years old, you were the one that we put in charge of making sure Glenn looked good on stage, right? Okay, I'm just checking. All right, go ahead.
But I just started like doing it more. For a while there, I was there every week. Every single week unless I was like on vacation or something. And it just really transformed me. Now it's just a huge part of my life right now.
So then you started doing lighting. So what do you do with the lighting now?
So I'm a programmer for the lighting. I make sure that they all look nice. I'll sometimes occasionally like completely do a song from scratch. There's actually now we have a few volunteers that do like lighting and camera and all that other stuff. And we just have a separate team for that. So we'll go like do meetings and train them or whatever. And I'm actually one of the people in charge of that. There's 3 of us, and I'm one of them. So I'm responsible for training them, leading the meetings, making sure that they're all ready to operate and program eventually. We're not there yet. Along with my other 2 people who are also responsible for scheduling for programming and stuff.
So at 18, not only are you programming lighting to make sure the band and Glenn look good when they're on stage, right? Because that's not just turning a light on and turning a light off.
No.
It's all the LED lights and all the digital lights that we have,
lights.
all that good stuff that
Like,
turns fun colors.
Like the one back there, there's 1 page of lights. There's 6 pages of lights in the main auditorium.
Most of us don't know what that means, but it sounds impressive though, right? Okay, so you're not just in charge of that, but you also program, but you also run the meetings and recruit people and build the volunteer group to lead that. Okay, and you're getting paid how much a year?
I don't get paid yet.
You don't get paid?
I don't get paid.
All right, good. All right, so now what's happened with that? How is that expanding?
So I really want to take this to other places. A couple weeks ago, Glenn did a sermon, and he brought in a whole bunch of different pastors from a whole bunch of other like smaller churches, and said, "Hey, we should help these people." So I went into Coop Court after that message, and I recruited myself to like 2 or 3 different churches, and I said, "Hey, I'm trained on these many different things, both tech and stage. If you need me, I'm there." And so I wanted to bring that to other people and get those smaller churches up to a point where like Pantano is.
So your vision is to help those churches to be more like ours and have the tools and the resources and have people who know what they're doing. Okay.
Yes.
So what's next for Peyton?
So since I'm graduating, I'm actually a very creatively driven person. I really want to go into architecture, draw fun houses and stuff. My plan is to go to Pima, just get all of my general education out of the way the easiest way possible, and then I want to transfer to the U of A for their architecture program.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. Give Peyton a big hand. I asked Peyton to tell her story because that's what this church is all about. It's about launching. It's about launching you. It's about knowing and recognizing that we don't have childcare, we have children's ministry. We don't refer to our nursery as childcare. We refer to it as children's ministry. We have a nursery. We have a 2-year-old class, a 3-year-old class. Why? Because those 3-year-olds don't just need to be watched so their parents can go to church. They need to be loved on and poured into, and they're little rockets that need to be built and fueled so that they can go. So they can go. You need to be fueled so that you can go. This isn't a place that we're here just so your parents can come and you have a safe place to hang out for an hour and 10 minutes so you don't run around the campus ripping it apart or something like that or do whatever. No. This is your fueling station. This is a safe place for you to come and be poured into and challenged and say, what are you doing? Where are you going? We want you to go. Some of you are like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, well, okay. Our church is challenged every year, the adults, to say, hey, we have a bunch of kids. We send hundreds of you to camp every year. This year, you guys go in Colorado, whitewater rafting. Might need another volunteer to go and help. Okay, that is not just a play, hey, we want to send you all to have a good time at summer camp. No, we want to see you get fueled up and have a good time as you're doing it. But to be challenged, to grow, and to learn. To have your faith expanded, to be poured into so that when you get that message to go, you can go. And that message should come any second. I'm not talking about going to India. I'm talking about going to your friend, going to your teacher, going to your parent, going to your sibling. And when I say go, I mean with the words of Jesus, to disciple them, to pour into them, to teach them to obey everything that Jesus commanded. And most of us, when we start thinking, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I can't tell somebody else that. Why not? This is a participation activity. Activate your faith is about saying, what do you believe? What are you going to believe? How are you going to live that out? How are you going to go? So every year we say to the church, our students need this experience. You need that camp experience. Because it's one of those intense times. It's like worth 50 Sundays. You go to camp, it's like we're coming here for 50 weeks. Because it's so intense and it's so great. And you're challenged to grow and you're focusing on God for the entire week. To say, challenge me. So we say that to the church and they go, okay. Last year people wrote like $35,000 worth of checks and cash and said, here, help our students get there. $35,000 in a scholarship fund to send you because we believe in you. We want to see you launch. We know that you can make the world different. If you watch the news, you can go, oh, it's hopeless. There's another shooting. There's another this. There's the people are evil. Yes, there is that out there, and there always has been. But if anyone can change it, it's the people who know Jesus. And they're going to say, well, I'm going to make the world different. Because what gets reported out there is not everything that's happening. Not once have I watched Fox News and heard anything about Pantano Christian Church and what we are doing in the community here in Tucson. Not once. But anybody with a gun can get on the news. Why is that? Because that's sensational. That's horrible. And all we want to do is put bad news on the news. But you and I are about watching transformation happen, about having people's lives changed, starting with you. You're a rocket. You have the opportunity to be launched, to do things you never thought possible. That energy that's being poured into you is 20 times more powerful than who you are. You can go make some rotten decisions on your own. But what you're getting poured into you is 20 times more powerful to send you in a totally different trajectory. You might identify some with Peyton's story, some of her story in some of those places. You may just be sitting here because it's a place that you guys come on Sunday as a family and you get to sit here and you're warm in a seat. You may be in a place where whatever tragedy in your life is holding you and you're just barely getting through that. Could be your parents are breaking up. It could be this has happened. It could be you're not doing well in school. All of those things can be, that trauma could be holding you. This church is a place that we want to pour into you so that you can be propelled away from the gravity that holds you to do what God intended you to be. To achieve that is far beyond who you are. I want to encourage you that you haven't been asked. If someone hasn't come and invited you, like Peyton, wherever she was, Jennifer walked up and invited her in. Say, hey, come on. Come do this. Maybe no one's invited you yet. Okay. Invite yourself in. Astronauts volunteer all the time. I want to be an astronaut. Okay. Come get trained. You want to learn more about media? You want to go do this? You want to learn more about that? Okay. Volunteer. Show up. I want to challenge you that wherever you are now, whether you're on a sports team, you don't have to be the captain of the team. If you're just on the team, you can make a difference. If you're in a club, if you're in a class, you can change the tone of any class that you are in. Or you can be part of the disruption. But I guarantee you, God did not design you to become part of the disruption. He designed you to be part of the people who bring hope, the people that bring a revolution of thought, a revolution of forgiveness, a revolution of grace. That's how He's designed you. Now, you can sit on the platform and you can say, no, I'd rather just peter out over there and fall out in the ocean, or go blow up over there, or blow up on impact, or whatever. You can decide that. But this church is about putting you together, filling you up, and launching you to make the world different. I want to invite you into that, encourage you into that. Our mission statement is loving people to Jesus. Absolutely. We want you to know who it is and where the power comes from. And then we want to launch you. Launch with all of that tremendous force to go and to take these words of Jesus and see them become a reality. Go, make disciples, baptize them, teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Now, what I'm not saying to you is you all need to be a missionary or a pastor. I'm not saying that at all. You guys can go. You guys can say things in your high school that I can't say as a pastor, that I can't even go to. You can. Jesus already launched you into a ministry field. And if the statistics are true, 93% of Tucson does not go to church. That means 93% of the people on your campus don't go to church. Talk about opportunity. It's right in front of you. 9 out of 10 of your friends, 9 out of 10 of the people sitting in your classrooms need to know that there are people who love them, that there is a God who loves them, that there is hope and there is forgiveness, and they have a purpose. I hope that you are understanding that you have a purpose. And you're giving that, learning that in such a way. See, these disciples that Jesus said to go, He filled them up first. He said, I'm going to convince you of these things that they're true. Now that they know it, then He tells them to go. He didn't say, all of you go but you, because you don't get it yet. They all got it. And He says, go. Because you know it. Now go live it. Take it. Do it. Change the world. And you know what happened? They did. Still, the #1 bestseller every year. It's the Bible. Better than any other book. Most well-read book in the world. Right here. Jesus changed the culture, and the men He entrusted it to change the world. And they've handed that off to you. make the world different as you get launched to whatever that is. As we get ready for communion, I want to just challenge you to process that about where is God launching you. Not just your life, what that is. Peyton isn't waiting around for graduation and what's going to be next. She's doing it right here, right now. She's using the gifts and talents and her desires and the things she's passionate about to live it out right here, right now. And now she's tying in with other churches and helping them. Allow Jesus to launch you here and now. That's why he came. He came here to bring hope, to bring forgiveness for you, for me. He came here to show us and to convince us that we are loved so that we could go love others. So I want to encourage you this morning as you take communion, it's at the stations. If you believe, you trust Jesus, I want to encourage you to come and take the cracker and the juice and just look at those and go, this is representative of God's body. We celebrate this, not because of what we've done, because Jesus came. He said he came to fuel you up, to fill you with his power so that you could go. And it's an opportunity for us to be thankful for that and to embrace it. Let's pray. God, we thank you that you recognize that we were stuck, a bunch of rockets on platforms with no energy to go anywhere. And you sent your son with his love, with his grace and his mercy and his forgiveness to touch our hearts, to touch our lives, so that we could go and to take the hope of the gospel, the hope of your love to the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I made. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. 'Cause when you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day.